Fortunately, I think, in the railroad industry, we've got economics on our side. We paid $43 billion for a rail system which has 22,000 miles of main track and 6,000 plus locomotives and 13,000 bridges if you ever want to buy a bridge. We've got a wonderful product. There will always be struggles in the political arena.
For one thing, we're headed by a prominent Democrat.
That may not be a help, Charlie. We'll spend $3.9 billion this year. A lot of it will go to improve our present system, an awful lot, and some will go toward expansion of a type. The country will be better off on that, and the federal government will not write a check for it.
If they wanted to reproduce the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, it might take $100 billion or so.
And 100 billion years.
They'd have to be a real sport.
Yeah.
If you look at a business like Burlington Northern, the railroad, so for the longest time, Buffett and Munger were very negative on railroads, rightfully so. It's a very regulated industry. It's very high capital investments. You have to take loads of toxic chemicals, which could cause you a lot of problem if there's a train derailment or something. You can't refuse shipments of chlorine or something because you're concerned about that, and you don't get paid extra for it. So basically, because you're a common carrier, you have to transport those things at published prices of other commodities and so on. But again, they realized after studying it for a while that there'd been a number of changes, and they were actually late to the party. So for example, the change from single-decker to double-decker trains, where they double-stacked the containers, and redoing the bridges so that the taller trains could pass through, was a project that took many years to get done, but it gave the rails a huge advantage. And similarly, there were a lot of advances that came about in terms of efficiency of labor. And, when diesel prices or gasoline prices start going up, then rails become a lot more competitive versus trucks. So again, it took them a few years to understand that there had been a big change in railroads. And they acquired Burlington Northern. They first bought the stock, but they acquired the entire business in late 2009.
Fortunately, I think, in the railroad industry, we've got economics on our side. We can move a ton of product 500 miles on 1 gallon of diesel. And that may be 3 times or so as efficient as trucking. And that may be why the railroads currently move, say, 42% of all intercity traffic. I don't think our percentage is going to go down, the railroad industry as a whole, no matter what the politics may be. It's just too compelling to move heavy traffic long distances over steel rail. And in terms of congestion, in terms of emissions, all kinds of reasons. So we've got a wonderful product, and there will always be struggles in the political arena between competitors in railroads and customers in railroads. It's the nature of the game, and there'll be some of that in utilities too. But overall, I like our position in that. They do have to be involved in politics. I mean, the railroads, all 4 of the big railroads, are going to be involved in the political process because people who would like to change some of the rules, either as customers or competitors, are going to be in politics too, and things will get decided in state capitals and more important in Washington of importance. So they'll have lobbyists, and they'll play a political game, and their opponents will. I like our position. It would be very dumb for the country to do anything that discourage the railroad industry from spending the kind of capital that will need to be spent to take care of the transportation needs of this country in the future. If you think about the money that will have to be spent on highways and the costs involved in there, and the congestion problems, the emissions problems, and everything, the country has a strong interest in in the railroad industry having every incentive to invest. And the railroad industry pays its own way. We'll spend $3.9 billion this year. And a lot of it will go to improve our present system an awful lot. And some will go toward expansion of a type. And the country will be better off on that. And the federal government will not write a check for it. Charlie?
Well, yeah, it's in the nature of things that there are waves of good breaks and bad breaks. Burlington Northern was enormously helped when you could double the container carriage by making the tunnels a little higher and the bridges a little stronger. And they were enormously helped when they found all this oil in North Dakota and there weren't any pipelines. And they will get some bad breaks too occasionally where somebody will take away a little freight. But averaged out, it's a terrific business with terrific management. I don't think our main problems are political at all.
No. The railroad industry,
For one thing, we're headed by a prominent Democrat.
the railroad industry was, that may not be a help, Charlie. Right after World War II, now there was a lot of passenger traffic then, but the railroad industry, I think, had as many as 1,700,000 employees in the United States. And here we are today, there's less than 200,000. I mean, railroads have become so much more efficient. It's just by a huge factor. And it's a fundamentally very good way to move heavy stuff a long distance. I mean, it's hard to conceive of anything. It's nice maybe to have barge traffic, but you only got a few rivers that are going to lend themselves to real volume along that line. And so you have air, pipeline, vehicles, planes, trains. Trains are pretty darn good.
Why specifically have you invested Burlington Northern instead of buying a capital-efficient company like American Express?
You're killing me, Daphne. Yeah.
I'm certainly glad she's not 9 years old.
Yeah. I'm just sitting here thinking which of the 6 panelists we're going to bump next year and put you in. Well, I thought I was doing well when I bought that city service at 11. The answer is that we always prefer the businesses that earn terrific returns on capital, like a See's Candy when we bought it, or a good many of the businesses, and American Express, earns a terrific return on equity and has for a very long time. The fact that we buy a BNSF, Burlington Northern, means that essentially we can't get more money deployed in capital light businesses at prices that make sense to us. And so we have gone into more capital intensive businesses that are good businesses, but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could run the railroad without trains and track and tunnels and bridges and a few things? We get a decent return on the capital intensive businesses. We bought most of them at very decent prices, and they've been run very well since we bought them. We still love a business that takes very little capital and earns high returns and continues to grow and requires very little incremental capital. We can't deploy as much money as we have in doing that, and so is the second best choice still a good choice? The answer is yes. It's not as good as the best choice. Charlie?
Yes, I like the aspiration of that young lady. She basically wants a royalty on the other fellow's sales. And of course, that's a very good model. And if everybody could do that, why, nobody would do anything else. The reason we're satisfied with our utility returns and our railroad returns is they're quite satisfactory. Quite satisfactory. I wish we had two more just like them. Don't you, Warren?
Yeah, definitely.
So the answer is they're good enough, and you're asking us to get perfection. If you want us to have all our money in Coke at, say, 5% of what it's now selling for.
Yeah, and a business like Apple really doesn't take much capital, but it's still, you've got to spend a lot of money to buy businesses like that. Very few are for sale, and the answer is we have not foregone any opportunity to buy businesses that earn high returns, very high returns on equity capital, or when we could buy them at a sensible price, to buy these other businesses. So they haven't shoved anything else off the table. But you definitely have a job in our capital allocation department. The government's talked about building a high-speed rail system in California. I think they're talking about 800 miles of track. And their estimated cost was about $43 billion. And estimated costs on constructions of things like that go up dramatically, much more often than they get reduced even by a minor amount. And of course, we paid $43 billion, counting debt assumed, for a rail system which has 22,000 miles of main track and 6,000 plus locomotives and 13,000 bridges if you ever want to buy a bridge. So that the replacement value of that asset during inflationary already is huge, and it would grow dramatically. And the world, our country, will always need rail transportation. So it is a terrific asset to own. I'll just leave it at that. The competitive position of the rails has improved somewhat from really not a very good competitive position 20 or 25 years ago. There's been a lot of progress made on the labor front. They benefit in their competitive position vis-a-vis trucking as oil prices go up. Higher diesel fuel obviously raises costs for rails, but it raises costs for their competitors, the truckers, by probably a factor of close to 4 compared to how it hurts them. So, and there isn't a whole lot of new capacity being created in the rail industry. So what was a terrible business 30 years ago, and it was operating under regulation, it still operates under the threat of re-regulation, which has a tempering effect on their pricing power. But it's a better business now. It'll never be a sensational business. It's a very capital-intensive business. And when you put tons of capital out every year, it's very hard to earn really extraordinary returns on capital. But if they earn a decent return on capital, it can be a good business over time. And it can be a lot better business than it was in the past.
You made some investments during that period?
Right.
Why did you do it?
Well, I felt it was an opportunity to buy a business that is going to be around for 100 or 200 years. That's interwoven with the American economy in a way that if the American economy prospers, the business will prosper. It is the most efficient way of moving goods in the country. It's the most environmentally friendly way of moving goods, and both those things are going to be very important. But the biggest thing is the United States is going to do well. I mean, we can't move the railroad to China or India. At least I haven't figured out how to do that. So it's a little like the Rivers of that song about New York. We have to make it here, or we can't make it anywhere.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, but it does move 460 moves a ton of goods 470 miles on 1 gallon of diesel. It replaces a train replaces 280 trucks on the road, and it emits far less into the atmosphere that's damaging than trucking. And it moves 40%. When I'm talking about the whole rail industry, it moves 40% of the goods plus.
And you have new port of entries like Houston that will bring in a lot of goods through the Panama Canal.
And we're going to have more people in this country, and they're going to be using more goods over time. And sure, there's a bad year from time to time. And in the next 100 years, there'll probably be 15 bad years, and I don't know what order they'll appear. But I also know the railroads will be essential to the country.
Now, when you called Charlie Munger and said, I'm thinking about this, did he say, right on, Warren, or did he say, how about this?
Well, if Charlie said right on Warren, I figured I had the wrong number. No, I mean that would be the wrong number.
It's not the likely
that
response.
Might be my wife or my, but Charlie gave a kind of a low-level grumble, and that is real endorsement from Charlie.
But I mean, he also pointed out, it is said that there was this was a regulated industry.
Sure.
This was an industry that was capital intensive.
Very capital intensive.
This was an industry.
You spend money.
It was unionized.
It was unionized. You spend money in this business regularly, every day. You're spending a lot of money, repair track or add rolling stock, whatever it may be. So it's capital intensive, and it is regulated, and it will continue to be regulated. It will continue to be capital intensive. I think that what the service provided by railroads is so important in many ways. I mean, it's the right way to move goods around the country to the extent that you can do it, and it's far more attractive in terms of global warming than using trucks, for example. So it will be here, and if we get a reasonable return on the added capital investment, because it'll take added capital investment, we'll do okay. And
reasonable return's good enough?
Reasonable return's good enough, Charlie. I mean, 50 years ago I was looking for spectacular returns, but I can't get them. I mean, we have $8 or $10 billion to invest every year, and we're in the utility business, and it's the same thing there. I mean, when we build electric generation or something of the sort, we shouldn't expect a spectacular return. We're building things that are essential to society, and people need our services. They really don't have any choice in the case of the electric utilities, for example, and sometimes in case of rail. And we should get a decent return on that. I mean, it's enough to encourage us to keep putting money into the business, but we're not entitled to spectacular returns.
You carry coal.
Well, that's a big one in terms of tonnage. Yeah, very big.
And if in fact we wean ourselves off coal, is that a big problem?
Well, we will wean ourselves off coal over time, but we can't change the 40% of electric generation that comes from coal. We can't change that next week or next month or next year, but we will reduce it over time, and we should reduce it over time.
And you can add other things to carry, and changes will be.
There will be more grain to move, and there'll be more all kind of chemicals or whatever it may be. There will be more things moving around this country 10 or 20 or 30 years from now.
Knowing your idea about moats, is it a pleasing idea that no one is likely to get into the railroad business from moats? If
they wanted to reproduce the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, it might take $100 billion or so, and
and 100 billion years.
They'd have to be a real sport.
Yeah.